Hello everyone. Nahida's been out for quite a while and her banner has just come and gone. This video was actually meant to come out a lot earlier. Sorry guys, I've been pretty busy. But I've had the privilege of trying her the past few days, and I figured it would be great to showcase how good she is in comparison to a Constellation 6 Traveler, and see if she's worth a free-to-play player's hard-earned Primo Gems. These tests will all be conducted from a support perspective, so I will avoid discussing the difference in their personal damage, and instead focus how much they can buff their respective teams. I'll be covering everything from Aggravate to Bloom, Hyperbloom, and Burgeon, which you can navigate to with the chapters below. Before we get into each individual tests, let me first go over the builds and some disclaimers. For both Nahida and Traveler, neither of them will be carrying a 4-piece Deepwood as I don't have a good 4-piece set for them. And since I'm testing them from a support perspective, their stats don't really matter too much either. Traveler will be running an energy recharge focused build, while Nahida will be running a kinda whatever build. Their talent levels also don't affect their support capabilities either, so I didn't bother to try and match them. Also, for the Nahida teams, Kazuha will always be in the party. This is to take full advantage of Nahida's A1, which shares elemental mastery to the whole team based on the member with the highest EM. Kazuha will have 999 elemental mastery, and this is done to both cap out Nahida's A1, as well as for consistency between tests. Also, please take all of these tests with a grain of salt. They are pretty much conducted in a vacuum, and I won't be doing any full team showcases as well. So the results may vary from person to person, but these are just my findings that I got. Starting out with the Aggravate comparison, Keqing will be used as the DPS. We'll be using her E2 as the variable since it has no ICD. Zhongli's shield will also be kept on for this test. First demonstrating how much her E2 does first. As you can see, with no reactions or buffs, she does around 18,000 damage. Now showing her raw Aggravate damage, that's gone up to 24,000. Pretty impressive considering my Keqing isn't even running 4-piece Thundering Fury. Now for the actual comparison between Nahida and Traveler with their full kits. With Lumine, Keqing's damage increased by a little bit to around 25,000 depending on how much ramp up time is given to Traveler's A1. Looking at the Nahida team, Keqing's E2 went up to an even further 27,000 damage. A modest, but not a massive improvement over the Traveler team either. This result is a little bit closer than I would have expected. I repeated this test with Raiden Shogun, and the results were even closer, with the Nahida team barely dealing more than the Traveler team. Suffice to say, Nahida's support capabilities aren't that much better than Traveler when it comes to Aggravate, even with her A1 capped out. Moving on to Bloom reactions. Starting with the standard Blooms, I'll be using Mona to proc the reaction. With the Traveler team, Mona's Blooms are doing around 4,900 damage each. Over on the Nahida team, her Blooms are now doing over 8,000 damage, nearly double of the other team. This difference is far greater than what we saw with the Aggravate comparison, which is not very surprising considering Traveler's kit doesn't buff transformative damage, whereas Nahida's EM sharing directly contributes to Bloom damage. This is a trend that you'll also see with the Hyperbloom and Burgeon as well. Speaking of which, moving on to Hyperbloom. For these tests, I will rely on Raiden's skill to trigger the Hyperbloom reaction. With the Traveler, each Hyperbloom pop is doing around 6,800 damage. Over on the Nahida side, each pop is now dealing over 11,800 damage. Overall, fairly similar results as we've seen with the Bloom tests. And finally, we have the Burgeon test. Bennett's skill will be the one proccing the reaction this time. For the Traveler team, each Burgeon pop did around 6,000 damage, and moving on to the Nahida team, each one did over 11,000 damage. Just like Bloom and Hyperbloom, the Nahida team had significant gains over the Traveler team. Okay, so now that we've seen all of the comparisons, let's go over the results and explain what happened in each one. In every single scenario, Nahida outperformed Traveler in terms of buffing capabilities. But you'll notice that Nahida only had a big impact when it came to the Bloom comps. There's a couple obvious reasons why this occurs, so let's go over how both Nahida and Traveler buff their teammates in a support role. For Traveler, her A1 provides 60 elemental mastery to the active character on the field. However, This does have some ramp up time, although it is aided by her Constellation 4, which reduces this ramp up time from 10 to 5 seconds. Traveler's Constellation 6 also provides 12% elemental damage bonus to the element that triggers her Burst Lotus transformation, which is actually really nice, as elemental damage bonus increases the character's own damage, like in the case of Kaching with Aggravate. Aggravate is also affected by a ton of other factors, such as the character's attack, crit damage, and talent level, so Nahida's buff to Elemental Mastery won't make as big of a difference. In the case of Bloom though, transformative reactions only get affected by the character's Elemental Mastery and level. This is where Nahida's kit truly shines, as her A1 gives so much Elemental Mastery to the active character when her burst is active. When capped out, the active character can get 250 Elemental Mastery, which is huge when it comes to transformative reaction damage, but just not as much when it comes to aggravate or spread damage. So from these tests, the obvious answer is that if you play aggravate DPSs, Nahida isn't really worth it, but she would be for Bloom comps, right? Well, there's also another important factor to remember, which is their application uptime. Traveler's Burst has a very high cost of 80, along with having 8 seconds of downtime. Her skill also has a fairly long cooldown at 8 seconds, with limited AoE and range. Nahida, on the other hand, can have 100% uptime on her Dendro application. Her skill has massive range and 360 degree AoE when held, and her burst has a low cost with only 2 seconds of downtime, making her much easier to rotate in a comp. This alone makes her much better than Dendro Traveler, and is worth the Primo Gems if you play any sort of Dendro comps, such as with Sino or Nilu. Nahida's personal damage is also much higher than Traveler's, which was not demonstrated in these tests, but it is something to keep in mind as it's pretty valuable since her damage makes her an extremely good sub DPS as well, even when filling in a support role. Of course, this is to be expected considering she is a 5-star and an Archon, and Archons tend to have traits that make them pretty irreplaceable. I should also mention that Nahida scales very well with her Constellation 2 for support potential, though of course, that isn't exactly free to play friendly. I'd just like to stress that you should take these results with a grain of salt though, as I did intentionally cap out Nahida's A1, which did give her the best scenario for her Bloom damage. But in conclusion, Nahida is definitely befitting of a 5-star and Archon status. It should come to no surprise that she does perform much better than Dendro Traveler, and is definitely worth pulling for. For those looking to massively improve their Dendro comps, Nahida is a no-brainer. I hope everyone who wanted Nahida got Nahida, and those who didn't, hopefully can get her on her rerun. Best of luck, and may Nahida want us be Nahida have us. Alright, thank you all for watching. This was just a quick video. I swear I have more videos planned, but I've just been too busy to make any right now. So hopefully I'll get that up soon enough. I'll also try to stream more on Twitch, as I haven't been streaming very often due to my somewhat busy schedule. In any case, thanks all again for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.